Receive presentation and update regarding the Smith County Courthouse and parking garage construction project. And we have with us Brandy Ziegler from Hoar Construction, and also Stephen Flournoy Brandy Ziegler, from Fitzpatrick Architects, and Stephen Flournoy from Hoar Construction. Sorry, I got y'all mixed up there.
It's okay. No problem. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm so excited to get to be here and give everyone an update on the courthouse project. Because we've hit a couple of milestones, and because it's a new year, and because we have a couple of new commissioners, a new court, we wanted to give a in-depth overview and start at the beginning, kind of a little bit of a review, and walk through where we were and where we've come on the courthouse. First of all, this is a slide we showed in 2019 when we were first looking at why we're building a courthouse. What is our reasoning? And one of the things we all thought about was how important this building is. It's a 1 in 100 year building. And these buildings shape our thoughts about our institutions. They bring us together. Many times the public buildings often accurately reflect our beliefs, priorities, and aspirations of a people. And what we're thinking about here is that we're doing something that is for generations to come, and we know this is no small task, and we're here to get it done. Other things that we looked at that time, why we're doing this project, looking at the existing courthouse, there were many things that were just unreconcilable. The security being the most important thing that we started looking at. Inefficient systems, the limited DA space on 2 floors made him inefficient and unsafe. Public was compromised, judges were compromised. We had limited clerk space, inadequate court space. Our witnesses were compromised. And there's just obvious vulnerabilities. We had courts on the first floor, which is a huge no-no in courthouse design because of safety and security. We had fire systems that weren't working. We had life safety issues in the building, egress problems. And so we started looking at that. The building was designed for 3 courts originally, and we have 8 courts in the building now, which space is a limiting factor in a security problem. If y'all remember, it seems like this is impossible, but 20 years ago, it's been 20 years now, we had a shooting at the courthouse. That was an impetus for a lot of talk about what can we do to make the courthouse a safer place. But it demonstrated the old, non-secure, and outdated courthouse and what that cost in human lives. So where we are today is kind of a foundational piece here. We're talking about an analogy, but we've got a foundation going on outside in construction, and we also want to talk about the foundation of the building process and how important it is to have a good plan in place and what that means for success for the project. We have several pillars that we're working through, but our main pillar is a safe building design, meaningful and efficient access to justice. We also, from many stakeholder meetings, knew that this was going to be a civic destination. Our community wanted this to be a front porch to the public realm, and it's a community anchor. And we're going to also talk about best practices. The items that you see in this view here alone, and the due diligence that's gone into this, there's been talks with the railroad, Union Pacific. We've had to work on soils testing, geotechnical testing. We've worked with the city, joint agreements. We've looked at right-of-ways. We've had to replat. There's property purchases that have gone into place. There's a list a mile long of the orchestrated and collaborative effort that gets us to this point that we'll kind of look at as well. I want to kind of talk about the role of an architect in a project like this, just because a lot of times we don't explain that, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that the architect's role here and what we bring to the table is that we ensure the owner's interest, Smith County's interest. We are here to ensure the project's success. We're here to deliver a high quality, functional, safe, and aesthetically pleasing building that aligns with Smith County's vision. while we maximize the voter-approved budget. What that means is we not only, many times people think the architect is the designer, the planner, and we draw the pretty pictures, but behind the scenes, we also are the liaison between the owner, the contractor, the stakeholders. We communicate with all the engineers on site, and we make sure that hundreds of people, stakeholders, and professionals are all headed towards the same goal. We administer the contract. We are the construction oversight on the project, the quality control review. We make sure that the project fills all the blanks for regulatory compliance, meaning Jail Commission, Texas Historic Commission, the Texas accessibility laws, on regulatory compliance. We also manage the budget and make sure that there's budget oversight so that we are hitting and staying within the $179 million voter-approved budget. We manage stakeholders, hundreds of stakeholders. We've had many stakeholder meetings and workshops on this project, including IT, security, the clerks, the judges. We've made sure that everybody's voice is at the table from multiple workshops and making sure that those pieces are implemented into the design. And we are also here for risk management, looking ahead and making sure that we are looking out for those things that could hold us up. I wanted to give you a little bit of a personal note on this. Our team, part of our team is here. Daniel Romo, Abby Schluterman are co-project managers on the project. This is just an example of kind of our grouping that we had at the office, where we are sort of the control center for at least 80 plus engineers and specialists on the project. What we did is we worked in a room, kind of a control room like this, each involved in a separate focus on the project, whether it be site, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, security, detention standards. All of us were managing those pieces, and engineers and specialists. And then also we worked together in this control room so that we then were collaborating, and so that the building would also be a collaboration when we had our set of construction drawings put together. Okay, let's take a moment and just pause and look back at the timeline for the project. Really, this is a 25-year project in the making. When we look back at the timeline overall, we started back, and this was a slide we looked at in 2019. We looked back at where we began in 2000, and the highlighted gray areas were just some milestones along the way. But in 2000, 2007, and then starting again in 2019, we had 3 independent studies for, what should we do with the courthouse. Like we mentioned, in 2025, there was a courthouse shooting, and we began to see the trend that in every time we had an independent study, we came up with the same requirements. We needed a new courthouse for about the same size that we were projecting. We needed a new parking structure to handle all of those coming to downtown, and we needed and we looked at the budget and what that looked like. That kind of is outlined here. In 2000, we had independent entity prepare a study. 2007, independent entity, same study, same result. And then again in 2020, all roughly within that same 230 to 280,000 square foot requirement is what we needed, and within a $125 million to $140 million project at the time. And that is the 2020 construction numbers. That is what we call a total project cost, and we'll get into that in a moment. Total project cost versus construction cost alone. And I will say also that we're going to look in a moment about escalation and what inflation has done over the course of the timeline. After we looked at those studies, and we were charged in 2019 to start looking at a study, we came to the Commissioner's Court, and we had many workshops on the location of the courthouse itself. These were just the narrowed down pieces where we were looking at what would be the best place. We looked at an elongated plan in the center of Broadway. We looked at other places on the east side of the railroad tracks. But what it came down to, again, was safety and security and what would align and make Smith County the most efficient. So the east edge of the square there in the middle was the selected site, primarily because it achieved the tunnel to the courthouse from the jail, aligned the annex, and made our courthouse complex efficient. And it was the site premium where the tunnel saved, out of all of the site locations, this location would save the taxpayers about $10 million when it came to tunnel construction. We looked at design and aesthetics of the previous courthouse and the stakeholders the public workshops that we had, and how important it was to look at the historical nature and the details of that project and incorporate some of that language into the design of the current courthouse. We looked at elongated plans versus similar to this building versus a more compact plan. We looked at the efficiencies of that and found that a more compact plan was more efficient. It cut out about 25,000 square feet and saved the taxpayer about, in today's dollars, about $10 million by going from just a elongated plan to a compact plan. So right off the bat, we're looking at ways to maximize the taxpayer dollar within the approved amount. In implementing best practices, once we had that site prepared and we knew that's where we were going, and we were looking at a compact plan, we wanted to look at what are the best practices for site design. Federal courthouses have a requirement of a 50-foot vehicular buffer around the perimeter of the courthouse. It's not required in county courthouses, but we wanted to see if we can implement that and make sure that we can provide the best practice that we could for a vehicular threat to the courthouse. The yellow line represents that vehicular buffer. We were able to achieve it with that compact plan, working with the city and the city and the county working together to have Spring Street as a closed right-of-way, and how we can then achieve that vehicular buffer there on the west side of the courthouse. We worked then with two other nationally recognized firms, Gensler and HDR, to look at, as consultants, to look at the security of the courthouse and the initial design of it. We worked on the main pieces that are the backbone of the design, which are the separate circulation zones and what our courthouse is missing now. 3 separate and distinct circulation zones for public, restricted, secure, and we had these peer reviews with our consultants, Fitzpatrick, Gensler, and HDR, that came and gave us our input on what would be the best way and the safest way to lay out this building. We wanted to, and you'll see that our building is laid out very much like this, with parking and secure parking on lower level, high traffic levels on the first and second floors for the public, court levels on the levels 3, 4, and 5, and then our court on the 7th level we'll look at in just a minute. Continuing on in this early stage, part of our best practice research is we went to site visits and we looked at courthouses that had implemented best practices. For instance, we went to Tarrant County, we went to Rockwall County, we went to Waxahachie County, and we looked at basically the good, better, and best versions of security and how that was implemented. Tarrant County's court, we really studied how it was laid out. We got input from our judges here, and we also looked at how judges' chambers and that restricted access to judges' chambers was laid out there. We looked at the design, we looked at how the clerk spaces were designed, and then we started implementing those into a early schematic design where we started with the court floor and how that court floor could be designed and so efficiently laid out, where we had those 3 distinct areas of access for the public, in custody, judges, and staff. And those 3 distinct circulation paths never cross, and that is the best practice for security design. And they don't cross vertically, they don't cross horizontally. We also knew that we needed to, and we were hearing from all the stakeholders, that this building needed to be a 75 to 100 year long building for generations to come. So that also is a piece when we're looking at what material specifications, the quality of the construction in this project, and what that means to the future. So we had done all of that work and all of that research. We had worked with project advocates, a third-party project manager at the time for budget projections. We had done research with HDR and Gensler. It was time to talk about the potential to take this finally to the taxpayer with a bond a vote. Because that had never been done over the course of the last 25 years, or 20 years at the time. So when we looked at the projections and we started thinking about what was optimistic, probable, conservative, we were hitting about $125 million total project cost in 2020. And then, as you all know, we were about ready to go to the voters, and then COVID hit. So we had a pause. And just to talk about a little bit about what that does for us in terms of time and the budget. The pause during COVID, we resumed in May of 22 to talk about going back to the voters again. And this is an example of the parking garage in 2020 and the courthouse and plaza total project cost projected in 2020. And as you can see, basically over the course of the 3 to 4 years when the actual construction would have started, that escalation was going up about 7% per year. And that the projections now were about a 28% increase over the course of that time. So there are a lot of things that are things we have to juggle or manage with the budget. But honestly, our greatest adversary was time. Time is what makes the budget increase on the construction project because of escalation. So in May of 22, we did a projection looking at what would the total project cost be for the courthouse and the parking structure. This was forecasted at the time. The $125 million in 2020 would now be a request for a roughly $160 million building, and the $14 million projected garage at the time would end up being about $16.9 million. We went to that was decided at the time. Then we would ask, the voter ask would be the $179 million, and then you can see the estimated total project cost for the courthouse. And today we'll find out in just a little bit that where we are actually on the parking structure, the $15,135,000, which is a great improvement. We were able to save and have a great improvement on the budget there. So from that point on, voters approved the $179 million in November of 22. And from that point on, starting then and then especially in January and in the spring, we started looking at a project delivery method that would complete a sort of checks and balances with the architect, owner, and then a construction manager at risk. A construction manager at risk is different than a competitively bid project as just a plain competitively bid project. The construction manager is based on qualifications and fee, and he comes onto the project at this time. And what that does for us is he starts planning and doing pre-construction services which project the budget for us, getting real-time input from subcontractors. And what that does for the project is put us on track for milestones. So immediately when Smith County went out for RFQ process, many contractors were looked at. Hoar Construction was awarded the construction manager at risk position. That became the project delivery method, and pre-construction services began. We all started working on budgeting through the schematic design process, through the due diligence process, and at each milestone, so at 100% schematic design, 100% design development, 100% construction drawings, we had milestones where we were projecting and double checking that we were staying within the bumpers of the voter approved amount. In addition to that feedback, we had a third party construction economist come on board and triple check us, and we had cost reconciliation meetings at each of those milestones to make sure that we're all in alignment, because we wanted there to be zero risk on bid day. Once construction drawings were complete, we did send out the drawings for a competitively bid process. And another benefit to the construction manager at risk is that at that time, when you receive competitive bids back in, those are vetted, and the construction manager then gives the county a guaranteed maximum price. That is what is critical to the project, because now that's why it's called construction manager at risk. And we'll talk to our friends at Hoar in a minute, but what that means is they've taken on the risk to ensure that we have a guaranteed max price of what we just showed everyone, and to deliver this project within that amount. And we can talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Once Hoar came on to the team, we started looking at pre-construction milestones. There's abatement, there's budget pricing. One thing I want to point out, and another benefit to pre-construction services, there are things that are long lead time items that, like the generator, mechanical systems, electrical systems, that if we had waited and bid those out, the lead times would have been impossible to get here on time. The cost would have been exorbitant. But for instance, because Hoar recognized that a generator, for instance, would have such a long lead time, we were able to go ahead and purchase that and have it on its way so that we can save the taxpayer dollars. That's what I mean by time is our greatest adversary when it comes to budget on a construction project. Same thing with, let's say, mechanical equipment. For instance, mechanical equipment is about to be procured. We get submittals into our office to review to make sure that it is matching up with the specifications. We find out that if we wait until this January to procure the mechanical equipment, there is a huge cost increase at the first of the year. So it is in our best interest, and our team of mechanical engineers worked throughout the Christmas break, checking all the submittals, making sure that everything met the standards of the project so that Hoar Construction could go ahead and purchase those pieces of the project prior to this January, so we did not have that cost increase and it would not impact the project. Last example, because time is our greatest adversary, we looked at ways to improve the schedule and not have such a long project. Hoar Construction came up with the idea for an early site package where we would start a make-ready site prior to bidding out the entire project, and this also improved the schedule and saved dollars in the project. A little bit about Vermeulen's, who is our construction economist and our third-party person who came on board and did cost reconciliations for milestones throughout the project. They're a leader in the industry, and they came on board, and this is just a little bit of an example of how this happened, but Hoar's projections, and remember, this is still pre-construction projections. We projected each scope of work, let's just say earthwork or exterior improvements or site utilities. Hoar Construction would project those pieces of the work, and then the total, once all of those scopes were added up, we would total and say, okay, here's about where we look like we are on the total project for construction cost. Remember, this is construction cost alone. Then Vermeulen's would independently and separately take the same drawings and do the same exercise separately without any input from us, get the same information, their historical data, then we would all come back together and see where Vermeulen's was. And then we would say, okay, how far apart are we? Where have we missed things? What are we doing? What's a trend that we're not seeing? And for example, this design development estimate, Vermilion's was about 1.8% over where we were projecting. And I will say each time Vermilion's was over where we were projecting. And so what we would do is say, okay, what are you seeing in the industry that we're not seeing here? That would be part of the cost reconciliation, but it gave us all a really good checks and balances of where we're going before we bid. This is an example from about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, when we were all orchestrating the very day to the very week of what we were going to be doing to get the project underway. We were looking at the parking structure. We were looking at talks with Texas Historic Commission. We were documenting historic documentation of the existing historical buildings. We were doing price reconciliation that I just described, the parking garage. We were beginning to look at abatement. We were targeting our 50% construction drawing set. We were beginning to look at early site and demo with Hoar Construction and targeting an early GMP for that site package so that mobilization could begin on the courthouse. Meanwhile, we're also talking with Encore and talking about temporary and long-term power to the site and re-platting and getting the entire behind-the-scenes site ready for construction. Just implementing best practices, just a little touch on construction drawings for this project. What do construction drawings look like for a 268,000 square foot building? It's basically 1,000 sheets of construction drawings, and we'd have to have a cart to bring it in here today, but it's really digital and all online. But basically we're constructing the building on paper prior to it being constructed on site. That way everybody knows what we're doing, everybody's on the same page, and we have a tool to implement that construction oversight. Just a quick reminder of what that 268,000 square feet is made up of. We'll quickly go over these floor plans. We have a lower level on the site that is a detention area. We've had our detention specialist consultant work with us along with the sheriff's department for many, many meetings, along with Don Bell and IT and how all of this fits together. That same lower level is a secure parking level, and then we also have facilities and a mechanical area downstairs, down in the basement level. On level 1, we have 2 secure entrances, the public entrance on the west and the light blue staff entrance on the north. All people coming into the courthouse for safety and security will be scanned, and we have that set up in a way for employees to come in from the north and from that parking structure, and then the public coming in from the west. We have a security office there right at check-in, and then we also have the district clerk there in the northeast portion and the jury assembly with 294 to expandable to 300 chairs in that multi-purpose space. Those chairs can be taken up and put up or put back out in whatever format. We also have the public law library there right on the first level. As soon as you go through security here, then you are able to access that public space. Second level, we have several things that we don't have now, like judicial compliance, the county clerk, pretrial release. We have additional conference room space, our grand jury space on this level, offices for court administration, and then IT support, along with our interpreter office. And then we have levels 3 and 4, which are identical, with 4 courts. These are our court floors. 4 courts, and then the public space in green. So you get off the elevators here, step out, and you can see all 4 courts at once. This is a great wayfinding piece for the public, but it's also a safety piece. All entrances to all courtrooms can be seen as soon as you get off that elevator. We have our 4 courts, and a incredible addition to the courthouse design is a secure in-custody holding area that goes all the way up the building between all the courts from that lower level. So in custody prisoners can be taken up, held here, and then brought into court, taken back and down, and never cross the path of the public or the judges and the staff, which is what we're doing now in the courthouse. Judges and staff have a secure elevator from that lower level parking up to their space. And then we have restricted access. This is something we gleaned from Tarrant County, restricted access where you have to be buzzed in to get back into the judges' areas. One thing we heard from every site visit and every interview was the biggest mistake people made when building a new courthouse that counties made was that the day one they moved in and there was not room for future growth. It was their number one mistake. What we've done in this project is project for the future and for future generations, that there will likely be 3 to 4 more courts, 2 coming online fairly quickly. And we have room for future growth for 4 additional courts on the 5th floor. The 6th floor is district attorney space. He will now, and his entire staff will be on one level, working efficiently with about 90 workspaces grouped by department, and he also has room for future growth. As courts come online, then his staff also has to grow to support those courts. 7th floor is 12th Court of Appeals. On the south portion of the building, the green space is public, yellow is the courtroom, law library for them as well, and then their courts office space in blue. We also have additional room for growth on this floor as Smith County grows and we need more office space. We can go through this very fast. The courtroom has indirect natural light, about 95 seats, expandable to 100. 2 conference rooms, a sound lock vestibule. This is missing from our courthouse now, and an example from best practices. The secure in-custody holding between every court, like we mentioned. A secure attorney conference space, which we obviously do not have now in our courtroom, for attorneys to address and conference with those who are in custody safely. The well was a series of many, many meetings and workshops with our judges to find out exactly what every single judge can live with so that we can have the same layout and bench in every courtroom. This was a great collaboration between those groups. We've had improved juror and jury space. If y'all have served on the jury lately, you'll know that we do not have this now, a safe and enough for everyone to get in the room and work within that space. Many of our jury spaces now are in storage rooms right now in the existing courthouse. A little bit of an overview. We've talked about the square footage. The occupiable square footage is the 268,000. We're 7 stories. It's the project, everyone finds it interesting, will be a little bit taller than People's Petroleum Building across the way. We have about 30 to 35,000 square feet per floor. 12 court capacity. Like we said, 8 courts now, expandable to 4 courts in the future. We have the 12th Court of Appeals. We have room for future growth, and we plan to finish the courthouse spring of all 3 phases in spring of 27. Which brings us back to this picture of where we are now, the foundation of the project. We have over 500 rammed aggregate piers underneath this foundation pad already today. Just a note on that, another anecdote. In part of the team's effort in bringing this project in an efficient way, we looked at multiple foundation scopes and deliveries for this project, one being an auger cast pile or a concrete pile, and looking at a rammed aggregate pier for the project. The soils engineers, the structural engineers, our team, Hoar, pricing, we all looked at this many, many calculations later, and we were able to save the taxpayer millions of dollars by doing a different foundation system under the project than what was first suggested. In addition to that, Hoar Construction had worked with us on even the smallest amount of scope, which you might think, well, we'll just pass by that. But even the shoring of the site itself, we looked at originally shoring with steel structure because the site is so compact. When you have to dig down into that lower level, a lot of times you have to use a steel shoring that is perpendicular. The cost of that is great. So we looked at options for a different shoring technique. As you see now, this is an example on a best practice on another project. We worked with our soils engineers, our structural engineers, Hoar Construction, safety experts, and we were able to, as you can see now, shore our project in a similar way. This saved also $1 million or more on the project just by shoring the foundation differently than what was first suggested. And it was a huge team effort. What we're doing is we're trying to look at every scope that way and be wise about how we get it done and make sure that we're doing it with all of the criteria in mind for the future, for the quality of the project, and staying within the $179 million, maximizing that for the taxpayer. Going back to this, and we're almost done. I know this is a lot. We're trying to get a big overview here. Going back to the overall budget, and I want to describe these numbers here and our $179 million broken down here a little bit more on this following page. This is best if we start at the bottom here at the total project cost, because we know this is our guaranteed max price, voter approved amount, $179 million. When we work our way back up, I want to explain kind of the overall breakdown of the budget. We have come in, and we'll find out shortly, we've come in with the parking structure much less than was originally anticipated. We have a savings on that project that comes back into the project overall. Pause. And we'll, the other benefit that I want to describe with construction manager at risk is if we see savings in the project, those savings come back to Smith County. And that is different than a hard bid project. And I'll explain just briefly. If we were just to send this out to contractors who competitively bid this alone and we get a price, that's the price we pay, and we never see savings. The contractor has said, I'll do this project for this amount, and that's what he'll do it for. Because we have a construction manager at risk, their job is to look at all of the savings possible on the table, and that's what we're doing, like I described in every scope. And if we can see savings, that comes back to the project and can be implemented in other areas for the taxpayer benefit. That is a huge perk to this process. And that's what we've seen on the parking structure coming in under what we originally bid, what the competitive bid was for. So the guaranteed max price ended up being here, and then soft cost here. So materials testing, abatement, contingencies, geotech, asbestos, reports, replatting, surveys, those are all direct and indirect costs here, along with professional architect, engineers, and construction management fees. That is what ends up being total project cost. Similar on the courthouse, this total project cost here is the compilation of the guaranteed max price, which is what we have now on the courthouse. I will say it's right on target, and it as you can see, it takes all of these efforts. That didn't happen by accident. It takes all of the projections and all of the efforts to hit this number right where we needed it to be successful. That's our guaranteed max price that's already been competitively bid, and Hoar Construction has given us that amendment on the project. Then land acquisition, direct cost, indirect cost, and fees are including everything from furniture to what is needed in the building, because we don't want to just say here's the construction cost on the project, but now the taxpayer we don't have everything we need in the building. So That's a total look at the budget and total project cost. The parking structure, this was the day we did topping off, is a success. It was brought in on time, under budget. It's one of the first pieces of the puzzle to the success of the entire project and the first milestone that we've hit. And we feel really great about that. The second milestone is that we started the construction project for the courthouse on time and exactly when we said it would be and exactly at the price that we projected it to be, which is huge because what is our greatest adversary? It is time. If we had missed those marks and we had drug out another 6 months to a year, you can see what the escalation would have been on the project, and we would not have been able to bring it in on time, on budget. Overall, the phases of the courthouse, summer, which we started in 2024 through summer of 26 is the plan for the courthouse, moving everyone in it, and then the demolition, the transition, and the new space, green space in front of the courthouse, finished by spring of 27. Traffic is working out in a very efficient way, and I feel like Hoar Construction's done an incredible job of keeping traffic on the east side of the square and in a very efficient manner bringing trucks in and out of the site and working with the neighbors to make sure that everybody feels safe. Okay, I have said a lot. And I wanted to ask Stephen Flournoy if he would come up with Hoar Construction. Our team here, Daniel Romo, Abby Schluterman, Stephen, and then Bradley Barr, the superintendent on the construction project. Y'all are tired of hearing me talk, but Stephen was going to give
I was going to make sure that you did introduce your team, and I'm glad, Stephen, that you're up here now.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. And thank you so much, Brandy. That was very thorough. Everybody in the audience has learned a lot today between our legal team earlier and you today. So that was fantastic. I'm sure there's going to be a few questions, but Stephen, if you'll take it from now.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Brandy gave a great overview of what we've been doing, basically. Hoar's been part of the team for roughly 2 years now, from the time that we competed for the job and then were awarded the work and started to become part of the team. We're the people that signed up for this deal, right? We guaranteed the price and we took all the risk. So we're proud of that, and we're continuing to deliver on that promise every day. We've succeeded in phase 1 of the project on the parking garage, and right now I'll tell you that our team every day is focused on delivering all the things that Brandy just described. The photograph that you see here is one that's taken obviously from the east side of the site looking to the west, back toward the existing courthouse. Brandy pointed out to you that our excavation is a sloped design that allows us to save the job a tremendous amount of money. Bradley Barr, sitting on the front row over here, is the other half of our leadership team. Bradley directs everything that you see in this area right here in the photograph. He's a gentleman that I've known for probably 15 or 16 years now, and I was honored to be able to come here and be a part of the team that he's leading to help build this job. This was obviously the day that we became we could not hide after this day, I'll say. That's the day that our tower crane went up. Lots of things happened behind that fence for a number of days and months, but once you put up a crane the size of that one, everybody knows that work's going on, and there's nothing you can hide from. What you also see here, and we've got a couple of other things, the fun stuff, we'll show some videos and show a time lapse, and we've got some drone videos. I'll tell you that we have a camera that constantly watches this job, and even if you don't see us out there walking around, there are those of us that know what's going on out there every day, every minute, and so our drone photos, we fly the site every couple of weeks, and it really gives us it paints the picture and tells the story, right? I know a lot of folks have seen the time-lapse video, the parking garage, but here's one of our drone videos. We fly it professionally every 2 weeks. You're seeing our deep excavation, our tower crane, and you're also seeing some of the largest portions of the job going in right now. The west portion of the project will be the projection that faces the downtown square, the new square once it's finished. And that's also our mechanical area. So here to the bottom of the screen, that's our mechanical area. It's the deepest part of the actual structure itself. And we've got mechanical equipment that goes in that basement. To the right-hand side is actually the deepest part of the excavation, and that is the stair tower that leads down to the tunnel. So that's the connection that we'll make. Our new portion of the tunnel will work its way picture south right there. We're headed west underground, and we will intercept that tunnel just about in the intersection that you see there where Irwin Street and Spring Street meet. Another cost savings option that we worked through was to slightly reroute that tunnel. There were a lot of concerns that the design team and Hoar Construction had about excavating underneath Irwin Street and a number of utilities that are there. I see one of our friends from Encore in the back. There are two primary power feeds right there that come up Irwin Street, and you know, Hoar is an extremely safety-minded organization. We did not want to be under the primary and the redundant power feed to here, basically to downtown Tyler and all of the businesses that surround downtown Tyler. So we work diligently with consultants, third parties, Encore, energy folks, gas folks, to make sure that we were able to look at a reroute and slightly adjust that to save the job some money and keep the project out of risk. So you're looking at, I don't know, 35 or 36 foot deep right there in that bottom right-hand corner. And we're backfilling part of that hole today and starting our process to be ready to start forming and pouring the tunnel. We do have some vertical shoring that's going in now right there. If you've been downtown in the last few days, including over the weekend, I'm sure you've heard it. Unfortunately, we have to forcefully drive 40-foot plus deep sheet piles right there in order to make that a safe excavation to get over and tie into the tunnel. A few tidbits of information I'll tell you is that what you see in the picture, we've excavated roughly 40,000 cubic yards of earth right there, and to create that hole, we have stockpiled and saved roughly 10,000 cubic yards of that dirt in order to backfill the basement at the existing courthouse once that demolition's done. In the time lapse, you may catch it. I'll try to point it out, but we've installed as our first step 30 60-foot deep dewatering wells. Everyone told us it's called Spring Street for a reason, and we believe them. So we've had a very successful run right now at maintaining and mitigating water from getting into our excavation. Brandy mentioned and showed you the diagram of over 500 rammed aggregate piers. You will also see in this picture here, you see some footings in place. They're not as readily obvious to you guys as they probably are to us, but as of today, we roughly poured about 2,000 cubic yards of concrete that we put in the ground. One of them we poured this past week at the end of the week that we're probably most proud of right now is the core building foundation and the main elevator shaft footprint, and that's 560 yards of concrete in a single excavation. So this entire courtroom probably would fit in that one footing that we excavated and poured last week. What else? She mentioned that we call it 8 floors of structural concrete, so we have a below grade level and 7 floors above. We also then have 1 floor of structural steel on top, and then the part of the building that will make downtown famous would be the dome and the cupola piece of it. So by reference, our tower crane, she mentioned the height is 223 feet. Our tower crane, the hook height on our crane sits roughly 30 foot above that. I climbed it this past Saturday, so I'm still kind of tired from doing that. I would not recommend it unless you're very athletic. But it's tremendous. It's a tremendous opportunity to be here transforming downtown right now. And our team takes it very serious every day. We do appreciate all the work that has gone into this, and the team of people that are in this room, the teams of people that are outside this room. I'll tell you that I've been doing this for a lot of years, and the coordination and the positivity that exists in Tyler right now, the team of local building officials and local agencies, Sheriff Smith, the group in the jail that constantly allow us to come in and get down and look at that basement and take measurements and plan things. They're tremendous. I'm glad Casey went ahead and started this time lapse. So here's the ugly part, right, where we had to take down the block. Demolition went well. You're going to see, I guess, maybe about a minute or a minute and a half. So it's interesting that we can compress 6 months of work into a minute and a half. But
And just to remind people that ask me, are you sure that tower crane's not going to fall? How many truckloads of concrete are in
another
that base?
extremely large footing.
Yes.
There's probably
You say 14, I believe?
15 truckloads of concrete, a bunch of number 11 rebar. If anybody knows what number 11 rebar is, it's about as big as your fist. It's an entire mat slab, basically, and that foundation will be there forever unless you know somebody that wants to come take it out. So we're starting our excavation. I'll talk a little bit as that's going on in the background. The other thing that we're proud of is that roughly 56% of our contracts are they were issued to Smith County and or East Texas trade partners. That's a tremendous amount of money on a job this size. Our largest local trade partners are Precision Civil, who you see has done a tremendous job of excavating this hole for us. We've got Mosby Mechanical, Stiles Electric. We've got East Texas Steel, and we've got Tommy Williams Drywall, Wind Tile. Those are some of our larger contracts for folks that are right here. They're on our team right now. They're working through every day, coordinating all the underground things that happen and the things that will happen above grade once we get there. That was fast. So that's the easy part.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's going to be some questions in just a minute. I do want to point out, thank you, Brandy, Daniel, Abby, all y'all's team. Thank you so much. Stephen, thank you. Bradley, thank you. And I want to point out two people that are really in charge of oversight, Jay Latch and Frank Davis on our team. I'd be bad if I didn't mention our IT director as well, Don Bell. He's been part of it. Our security sheriff, I'm gonna leave somebody out, I know. Lieutenant Lazarin, he's been fantastic helping with all his ideas on security as well. So thank
Agreed.
y'all. Thank y'all much. Any questions from the court right now? Okay.
I just want to tell you thank you for that presentation and catching us up since we're the new members on the court. That was outstanding.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all very much. That was
Yes, sir.
fantastic. And we will have them back, yes, periodically as we move forward in this. So thank you very much. All right. That needs no action from the court. And thank everybody else for being so patient. I know y'all have got some things on the agenda. Item number 4, consider and take necessary action to adopt a resolution supporting the efforts of the Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce Veterans Committee to have the state of Texas name a portion of the U.S. Highway 69 as Veterans Memorial Highway. And today we have Jackie Clay here from that Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce Veterans Committee. And Ms. Clay, if you'll come up and first just introduce the folks you have with you, that'd be great.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. My name is Jackie Clay. I'm the chair of the Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce Veterans Committee, and we have quite a few folks from the committee here, if you all don't mind to stand. And I'd like to say thank you so much to Henry Bell, who's the president and CEO of the chamber, for his leadership. So many great folks. Jim Snow, who is co-chair, a retired Lieutenant Colonel Jim Snow, who's co-chair of the Veterans Committee. Folks that our committee consists of veterans serving organizations, veterans, and concerned citizens. So some of the organizations represented are the VA Clinic, Lee Farr, his administrator. We have Camp V, Executive Director Travis Gladwell, and board member Susan Campbell. Jim is also on the committee. We have Jack Short, Representative Matt Schaefer's office, but somebody. Okay, thank you. And we have Josh Russell. He is a Vietnam veteran. Stephanie Wallace, who is a consultant working on behalf of veterans. And I'm so sorry. Thank you. I'm trying to memorize everybody's name, but I'm not perfect.
You did a great job.
But I'm so grateful for everybody on the Veterans Committee for their hard work. This project wouldn't be happening right now. And I especially want to say thank you to Stephanie Wallace. Raise your hand, Stephanie, because Stephanie has been working nonstop on this project and so many others to help move forward all the initiatives of the Veterans Committee. So thank you, everybody. But today we want to say thank you to Judge Franklin and to the esteemed commissioners. On behalf of the Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce, we want to express our gratitude for this resolution designating a portion of Highway 69 as the Veterans Memorial Highway. This, for us, is a meaningful tribute to the courage, the sacrifice,